Welcome to my YouTube channel, Homeopathic Super Sessions by Dr. Jargos. Today I'll be doing J.H. Allen on idiosyncrasy. Well, idiosyncrasy is a mode of behavior or a way of thought peculiar to an individual. So J.H. Allen is saying that idiosyncrasy is a mode of behavior. So how the patient behaves, how he walks, what is his body language, what is his way of thinking. So his mode of behavior on the physical level and the way he thinks, that is on the thought level, that is on the mental level, it is peculiar to an individual. He slightly differs from Dr. Hahnemann, in which Dr. Hahnemann in episode number 117, he says that idiosyncrasy are those peculiar corporal constitutions which otherwise, although healthy, seem to be affected by those things which seem to have no effect on other people. So J.H. Allen has taken up only that part regarding what Dr. Hahnemann has said is those peculiar corporal constitution. So he is expanded on the peculiar corporal constitution, and he says that idiosyncrasy is a mode of behavior or way of thought peculiar to an individual. So it is seen in both on the state of the body and on the mind, or even both the body or the mind. It can be either physical, mental, or moral idiosyncrasy. So he further classifies it, saying that idiosyncrasy can be either on the physical level, on the mental level, or on the moral level. It is seen in desires, hopes, fears, cravings, moods, and longings. So this idiosyncrasy, that is the mode of behavior or way of thought, it is seen in these different parameters of desires, hopes, different fears, cravings, moods, and longings. It can also be seen in different manners of life or in any expression of life. So he says that also it can be seen in the different expressions of life. So as life progresses and as the patient progresses in life, what expressions he gives, they are nothing but the idiosyncratic expressions which are very peculiar on the mental or on the physical level. The faculty of the brain may manifest it. For example, being extremely cautious, being oversensitive to odors, flowers, or perfume. So he's giving an example that the behavior of the patient will tell you that he or she will be idiosyncratic. That means being extremely cautious, or maybe an sort of an obsessive compulsive neurosis in which the patient always, after locking the house, will again go and see whether he has locked it or not, or is washing his hands. He'll go on washing his hands 2-3 times, thinking that it is dirty. So being extremely cautious. Also oversensitive to odors, flowers, or perfumes, in which Dr. Hahnemann has already said. He's given an example in the footnote of episode number 117 regarding examples of idiosyncrasy. Then Dr. J.H. Allen says idiosyncrasy could be also to light, to noise, to colors, to animals or birds, and fainting easily when roses or violets are brought into the room. In sickness, they cannot tolerate bright light, sunlight, or even artificial light like that of a lamp or electric light. So again, the patient's reaction to the expression of the life. He cannot tolerate bright light or sunlight or even artificial light. Even certain shades of color are intolerant to them. So a person may not like to wear certain colors because they find it a bit odd or it doesn't suit them. Many a times they cannot endure the presence of animals such as cats, dogs, and other animals. So the fears, as what Dr. J.H. Allen said. So fears also are a mode of idiosyncrasy, which characterizes the individual on the mental and the physical plane. So naturally, he could have a fear of any animals, for example, cat, dog, or any other animals for the matter of fact. Often these peculiarities are temporary, as seen during pregnancy, about puberty, or early childhood. So out here he says that these sort of idiosyncrasies can be seen, but they are temporary during pregnancy when the hormonal changes take place, or even in puberty again when the hormonal changes take place, or even in early childhood. In majority of the cases, the patients are born with this abnormal condition. So he again reminds you, saying that in most of the patients, this idiosyncrasy is inborn. At times, they may make their appearance during certain illnesses such as prolonged fever, gastrointestinal disease, etc. So this sort of an idiosyncratic expression will be seen in certain illnesses which are prolonged. For example, a long fever or a gastrointestinal disease. So when a patient has a GI disease, whatever modalities come up, they are nothing but an expression of the idiosyncrasy. Later on, he will tell you something about the modalities and idiosyncrasy. The craving for salt may not be seen in food, but they will steal it from the cupboard or table. So Dr. J.H. Allen says that at times you may not see the craving for salt present in an individual, but that small child or the small girl or the small boy, when no one is looking, he will slowly open the cupboard and he will eat some raw salt. This is seen in people who have a tubercular diathesis or latent syphilitic trait. So out here, he says that this craving for salt will be seen in those people who have a tubercular diathesis or a latent syphilitic trait. As you all know, the tubercular miasm is a combination of the psora and the syphilitic miasm. So when you have got a particular diathesis, that is a tubercular diathesis or the latent syphilitic taint, this will become more pronounced. Professor Wong-Han, on his work on urine analysis, demonstrated that sodium chloride was eliminated in small quantities, especially in persons suffering from tuberculosis. So this is some work that this professor has done, and he has found out that sodium chloride was eliminated in small quantities in the urine in persons suffering from tuberculosis. Furthermore, J.H. Allen says idiosyncrasy can be manifested in different ways. One can tolerate a certain food while the other will fall sick. This is also what Dr. Hahnemann has also said. We see skin eruptions or arterial rash after eating seafood or shellfish. So also here, Dr. Hahnemann has also given this example. It can be even seen from eating certain vegetables or fruits. So here, Dr. J.H. Allen expands on Hahnemann's foundation, saying that it can also be seen in certain vegetables or fruits. Or it can, in people who travel, it is seen by the manifestation of nausea. So in people who travel either by car or by ship, they will have nausea. So nausea while traveling in a car or in a boat is nothing but an peculiar expression of that individual. This peculiar expression is nothing but the expression of idiosyncrasy. Others are affected by change in barometer, approach of storms, winds, blowing, etc. So this also aggravated by storm or during a thunderstorm, during thunder lightning, during massive wind blowing, etc. All these changes in the atmosphere which take place are nothing but idiosyncrasy. One patient craves fresh air and wants all the doors and windows open. Other patient desires warmth, so much so that the slightest draft of air causes suffering. So he's also given an example of a patient who wants the open air and he craves for fresh air, whereas another person would get aggravated with the slightest draft of air. So again, these are nothing but the idiosyncratic manifestations seen in the expression of life. Thus, idiosyncrasy seems to be an inherent concomitant of life. So again, it reminds you that it is an inherent concomitant or a part and parcel of life. What we know as aggravations or ameliorations are due to idiosyncrasy. So whatever aggravations are there, whatever ameliorations are there, they are nothing or they are because of idiosyncrasy. People who suffer from idiosyncrasy are not considered as healthy human beings. In Dr. Hahnemann has said that they are apparently healthy or they are those peculiar corporeal constitutions. So Dr. J.H. Allen says they require anti-miasmatic treatment where it can remove or separate the psora or the tubercle element or any other miasm that may be behind the idiosyncrasy. So the cause behind the idiosyncrasy is the miasm. Generally speaking, the tubercular miasm combination of SORA and syphilis is there. So if a tubercular taint is there, or the latent syphilitic miasm is there, or for the matter of fact, any other miasm which is there at the background, which may be responsible for the idiosyncratic trait, that has to be removed by the means of anti-miasmatic treatment. Thus, idiosyncrasy is a bad habit of the organism or of the mind. So nothing but, in short, he says that it is a bad habit either on the mental level or on the physical level. It is seen in mental or physical peculiarities cropping up in earlier years of life of childhood and adolescence. So this is seen, the changes on the mental level, on the physical level, they are seen in early life of childhood and adolescence. In hydrogenoid constitutions, we see there is a tardy or a non-assimilation of bone-making material. So he gives you an example of a hydrogenoid constitution. Thus, in the proving of calcarea carb, calcarea phos, silicia, the limes, phosphates, and silicates are not being furnished for making the bones. So, in such provings of calcarea carb, calcarea phos, and silicia, we get deficiency of lime, phosphates, and silicates, which are useful for the making of the bones. As a result, there's a longing for such material which the organism requires. So naturally, there will be a longing because that is deficient. The patient is not satisfied until the physiological processes is restored by the administration of the stimulant. So the patient will not get satisfied. So you have to satisfy it by an homogeneous substance vibrating on the same plane as that of the body. So that is nothing but the simillimum. Once the simillimum is administered, then the deficiency is taken care of. It is again quite noticeable in pregnancy states where a new physiological process is established which disturbs the patient. So previously also he's telling you that whenever any hormonal changes going on in pregnancy, during adolescence, during puberty, all these processes are visible. Thus, strange wishes, desires, longings take possession of them. They desire strange cravings like salt, pickles, sweets, raw food, etc. In short, perversions of taste or desire are there. So, any perversion or of taste or desire, again, he is classified into idiosyncrasy. That means what? Cravings and aversions, because they are peculiar to that particular constitution. On the physical level, they have a strong desire for travel, sightseeing, and they do not like to stay alone at home. So on the physical level, they like to travel. On the mental level, they prefer solitude, to be alone and quiet. Music may give them some relief, or it may make them sad. Often nothing seems to satisfy or please themselves, thereby making the life miserable. So again, these are the characteristic features on the mental level as well as on the physical level, which will characterize the individual. The likes or dislikes are often exaggerated due to presence of the latent miasm. So why are these likes and dislikes there? Because of the presence of the latent miasm. Now the latent miasm is generally what Dr. J.H. Allen is saying, the tubercular miasm, or it could be also any other miasm at the background which is responsible for the idiosyncratic state. So it lies in the latent form or in the slumbering form or in the inactive form. It is roused into activity when the body has an extra demand on the life force, the circulation, and on the nerve supply. So when are they roused into activity? When there's an extra demand on the body by the life force. These new functions tax the body, which is already weakened by some deep acting miasm like that of the tubercular element. So right from the beginning, the body is overburdened, the body is taxed, and furthermore, the tubercular element also, which is a deep acting miasm, will also weaken the overtaxed body. It is then that the idiosyncrasy crops up, the predisposition becomes manifest, and is blown up into a full-fledged picture. So this is when the idiosyncrasy, when it is lying latent, the miasm lies latent. When it is activated, that is a tubercular element, the idiosyncrasy will crop up and the predisposition becomes manifests, and it blows into a full-fledged picture. So that is all what he has to say about idiosyncrasy. In the next video, I will be doing about the predisposition. So predisposition and idiosyncrasy both are interlinked to one another, or rather we can say they are a complement to each other. So now let us see in the next video, which I'll be putting up shortly next week, we'll take about the predisposition by J.H. Allen. So I hope I have able to simplify it for you, and I hope that you understand it nicely and do well in your exam.